Woohoo! And we're live once again on another Tuesday. And I have a special across the pond guest with me today, Beth Kirk, coming in from Oxford, where it's just such a smart town. I love it there. So Beth, before we get stuck in with our topic today, can you let people know who you are and what you do? And then we'll get stuck in.
Thank you, Gillian. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. My name is Beth Kirk, as you kindly introduced me. I am a freelance social media marketer. I do specialize in LinkedIn, but I do work across other platforms as well. And I help business owners, organizations, charities, anybody who really wants to learn more about professional social media marketing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So here is our topic today, embracing a LinkedIn mindset for success. And I love this because, first of all, I love the idea of mindset because mindset is such an interesting word. So I want to sort of break that down. And also, too, success can mean so many different things to so many different people. So I want anybody who's listening, who's watching, to really think about, what does success mean to you when you look at LinkedIn? But let's start first with mindset. So I stole this from you. I found your wonderful LinkedIn. It was like a slider post, a document post, and you talked about having a LinkedIn mindset. And I went, ooh, that so resonates. So Beth, what does that mean to you, a LinkedIn mindset?
Well, a LinkedIn mindset, I think, is what I often find myself coaching my clients on before we actually dive into the meaty nitty-gritty of getting stuck into what I actually want them to do on the platform in order to get more visible, or what we're actually going to talk about in their content. Quite often I have to park all of that and we have to talk about how they feel about the platform, because a lot of the time, and I'm seeing this all the time in the conversations that I have, whether I'm networking or working with clients one-to-one, it comes up time and time again, is that people really struggle with getting visible. So they struggle with what that means for them personally on the platform. And that really holds them back because they don't want to share information about themselves. They don't want to build a network because they're not sure about whether that's the right thing to do. And also they feel a bit worried about who might be in the network. They don't do anything proactive on the platform. And so essentially all of those things combined together mean that actually nothing's really happening. So that, they don't have the visibility. They're not getting the most out of LinkedIn as a business tool, or as a marketing tool if they run their own businesses. Because I'm kind of coming at this from not only do I help business owners, but I also do coach people if they are a career professional and they want to get more visible on LinkedIn. You've got both types of individuals here. And that kind of mindset impacts everybody on here, because it means that you're not making the most of the platform.
That is a wonderful breakdown. That's a wonderful breakdown. And I love that idea of you have to do that first, because so many people just jump into, let's optimize your profile and let's start, banging out content. But if you don't have the right mindset first, you're going to stay there. And I liken it to, if you go to a party, if you just stand back and you never enter into any of the conversations, you might say, I had a terrible time. Well, of course you had a terrible time. You didn't talk to anybody. You didn't do anything. You just stayed in the background. You never ate any food. You never had any of the soft drinks. You just stayed in the background. And I think a lot of people do that when they first come to LinkedIn. They just kind of go, I don't know what to do. They're standing sort of on the sidelines, and then they go, I don't know what the deal is. LinkedIn doesn't work for me.
Absolutely. And I've heard so many people say that to me. And then when I go and look at the profile, or when I start to have a deeper conversation about what their actions are on the platform, it comes out that, you know, they're not visible, they don't have a photograph, for example, they don't have a profile image, or they reject people, you know, people coming to them to request to be connected to them. They reject them. You know, they've got no particular reason to, but they, you know, because they don't know them, they reject them. You know, so they kind of it always becomes quite clear to me straight away that actually we need to do a little bit of work on your mindset around the platform. And quite often I can shift that mindset really quickly with knowledge about the platform. So, you know, every social media platform is different, and LinkedIn has its own set of nuances, if you like. You know, there are myths around this platform, and there are certain behaviors which are going to definitely help you become more successful. And once I start to talk to people and educate them on how the platform works, then quite quickly I see a shift in the, you know, quite often I see a shift in the behavior, and then they start to see results. So it does all then have a really lovely knock-on effect. But I find I always have to go down the mindset route a lot of the time first, most definitely.
And with mindset, there's always, are we talking about a fixed mindset that, oh, I don't know anybody, I can't do anything, I'm not social, or a growth mindset of like, yet, I don't know how to do that yet. And I know when I started with LinkedIn, I didn't know a lot of people. And I thought, well, how do I get on this platform? Because I only had like 50 contacts at the beginning. And I thought, contacts. So what would you say to somebody who says, I don't know anybody?
Yeah, and it's so interesting because I was having a long conversation with somebody about this the other day, because you know, she was a very typical client that I've just described, in the sense that she, you know, she had a very, very, very small network. She had just under a couple of hundred people in her network, which is quite small. And, you know, I was starting to have the conversation with her about growing her network. And she was, you know, her view was, well, you know, I don't really want to have people in my network if I don't know them. And, you know, possibly they're going to try and sell me something, and you're not really sure, or it's people that I already know. So why do I need to keep connecting with people that I know? And kind of my response to her was, you know, well, actually, when you are, you know, connecting with somebody, and growing that nice network around you, that nice community, you know, that we love to use that word community on LinkedIn, because it is a community, but actually everybody knows somebody. So everybody knows somebody else. And so often people come to me, and I'm sure this happens with you as well, Gillian, is that people come to you and, you know, say, oh, so-and-so told me about you, and that person's in your network. So whilst you might think, well, you know, I know these people, and actually, why do I want more of the same people in my network? But everybody else has got a network. So my view on it is, be open-minded, you know, think beyond the network, you know, think beyond your network, because, you know, if you come up in other people's conversations, because, you know, that's the point of us all being here, is that when we're sharing content and we're talking about what we offer, if we're a business owner, you know, we are top of people's minds. You know, one of the reasons to be effective on social media or do social media marketing well is to be a brand or a business that comes up top of mind when somebody needs what you offer. You know, and I always sort of remind people of that, because, you know, there's a reason to build your network, because they will all have their own networks as well.
I love that. And I know that we are literally one person away from finding the people that we need to find. And when you meet somebody, like you said, you're meeting them, and they're 1,000 friends, you know, they're 1,000 connections. And I remember once I had somebody who, you know, I think she was in the United States, and somebody from England, I think somebody who I knew actually, and I have tons and tons of connections in England. And of course I went to England and I met all those people, and it was awesome. But when that person in the United States, they got an invitation to connect from somebody in England, they said, I'm never going to do business with somebody in England. Why would I want to connect with them? And I said, because you don't know, they might have American contacts in their connection. So don't be so blind as to, oh no, I have this wall around me, because you don't know who's in their network. Plus also too, even if you never meet these people, they could be a virtual connection. I have connections with people all over the world, and I'm sure I'm not ever going to get to their part of the planet to visit them, but I sure enjoy hopping on a Zoom call with them.
Yeah. And I think that's how I found out about you, Gillian, because we have a mutual connection in John Espirian, and your name came up, whenever anybody was questioning or asking John about video expertise or live expertise, John would mention you. And I know, I would say I'm 99.9% sure that's how I became aware of you as a live and video expert. So there you go. There's a live example of how it works, because people do recommend other people. And quite often I'll see on LinkedIn that, there are people saying, I need an expert copywriter, who can help me. And people comment underneath the post and they tag the expert copywriters that they know. So if you're not visible on LinkedIn and you're not building that network, you're never going to appear as that recommendation. So, I think there's so many great reasons to think beyond the network, and to be proactive about building it, because that's another thing, is that people quite often just let the contacts come to them, or the connections come to them, but actually, LinkedIn needs you to be proactive to get the most out of it. So it's absolutely all about thinking about who is who's the person you want to speak to, who are they, what do they look like, what job titles do they have, go and be proactive, search for them, because, again, quite often, people say to me, oh, I never connect with anybody. And I'll say, well, why would you not connect with, why would you not be proactive? And they might not accept my connection request. So there's an element of nervousness around that. Or, they're just not really sure of the platform etiquette. And once they understand that actually being proactive is really, is a really important part of being here, then all of a sudden I find they become really comfortable with reaching out, creating nice connection request messages, and putting themselves out there to say, I'd like to connect with you. And again, that's another mindset shift. It's about being proactive rather than waiting for it to come to you.
I like that. And it involves a little bit of bravery.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Particularly if you're an introvert. Absolutely. Yeah. Particularly so. Or if you're a person that really doesn't enjoy sharing very much on social networks, and that is, that can be very common. But we don't have to share everything about ourselves. We can draw the line as to what we talk about. I share a lot of things around my business and what I do and how I help people. And I also share quite a bit about my kind of outside personal interests, because I love the outdoors. But I don't talk about my family, and I don't share my children. And that's my line. That's my line, is that I don't, that may change in the future. But for the moment, they're young. And I feel like I'd like to give them a choice when they're older. If they, if they want to appear in a photo with me or whatever, that would be great. But, they may say, no, thanks. So, and I think, a really fabulous exercise that people can do is to kind of work out what they're happy sharing, and also work out what they're not comfortable with sharing. Maybe talk about it with loved ones or family, and say, this is what I'm going to talk about on LinkedIn or on a social network, and this is what stays at home. And I think that's a really worthwhile exercise for people to do, so that they know. They kind of, when they're thinking, oh, should I post this? Is it too much? Is it too personal? That they're comfortable with what they've decided that they're going to share personally. And as you and I probably both know at the moment, personal content does work well on LinkedIn. There is more of that around now. I always say to people, as long as it's relatable to your work persona or your professional position, I think it's okay. So when I talk about the fact that I might have gone out and done a walk on, one of the national trails in the UK, for example, sometimes I post about that because that is my way of switching off from the digital world. And I think it's relevant because that's how I kind of position the content. So I think as long as you've got that, that plan of, this is my line, what I'm going to talk about, what I'm not going to talk about. And if there's anything personal in there, this is how I'm going to relate it to myself professionally. Then I think that makes people feel a lot more confident having that little plan, because they know that they've made that decision and they know that they can relate it. So I find that works with people quite well.
I love that. I love that. So speaking of people, let's hop over to our comments. So we have Jeff Young, who says, love this topic, Jillian and Beth, especially since we all define success differently. That is so true. And that's probably what you need to do in the beginning is figure out what do you want to accomplish for you? What are your goals before you even start with anything to define success? So that's a good one. And Jeff says, greeting, Jillian and Beth, mindset. Oh, he loves to do acronyms.
Oh, okay, I like that.
Insightful, new dialogue, sharing excellent tips. Ooh, that's a good one, Jeff. That's a good one. I like that. Mary Wu says, Jeff Young, I am peckish. Did you bring the popcorn? So this is an example of how you can get to know people. Especially if you're shy and introverted, when you come to a live like this, you can actually have a conversation with other people in the comments at a live, and you can literally tag each other and reply to each other. But you can do this on any LinkedIn post. If you see something that resonates for you, you can not only make a comment for the author of the post, but you can comment on other people's comments. And after that dialogue, that's a great way to, hey, you send your connection request to somebody that you've commented on a few of their comments. They know you now. Breaks the ice, doesn't it, Beth?
Absolutely. And I think for people, when I work with people, they're quite often really terrified of the thought of sharing a piece of content. They're really worried about it. They're not sure if it's going to hit the right spot. They're worried that the tone of it might be wrong or that it might damage them professionally. And I always try to make sure people think about taking the next natural step for themselves on the platform. So for somebody that's already active and maybe has a profile that looks pretty good, and was maybe already doing a bit of engagement on the platform, but actually it's probably quite a natural step for them to move into sharing content. They just want the how and the why, the why, how do I do this? Great, I'm off now. I'll get on with it. I'm going to go for that. And then when you think about, the individual who's struggling with the mindset of being here, who, maybe has very limited information on their profile, they don't proactively connect, they don't comment, they're not really being proactive at all, to move them to sharing content is a really big leap for them to take from a mindset perspective. So that's when we kind of go, right, okay, what's going to be the next natural thing for you to do? And that's probably going to be bringing the profile up to scratch, because that's the most important thing we have to do on LinkedIn first, and then actually maybe, as you suggest, making some comments in response to other people's comments on the platform. It's certainly not going to be kind of sharing a long detailed post. It's going to be something that they feel comfortable with. So the next natural step is where I always try to encourage people to take themselves to. So, if anybody watching is maybe one of those individuals, then hopefully that gives you a steer on what might be good for you to do next. If I worked with a client who was sharing content, had a great profile, had a great network around them, and was being really proactive, I'd probably say, well, actually, let's talk about doing some lives, let's talk about doing a live series, because it feels like that would be the next natural thing for you. So, I think it's about gauging where you are and working out what's going to be the next little step that you can take forward.
And I like little steps, baby steps, ease into it.
Yeah. And keep making them. So you keep making progress.
Yes, yes. We have, oh, I'm sorry. I'm not going to try and say the name because I might mess it up. She says that she is joining from Mozambique. That's wonderful that I love the international. And she says, oops, okay, I'm not sure what that is. Okay. Oh, we have Sarah Burgess, who we both know. Lovely Sarah Burgess. Hello, Jillian and Beth. Thank you for joining us, Sarah. We love Sarah. She says, Mary Wu says, if you figure out your goals and mindset, you decide to change things up, you can change things, growth is accepted. And I think that's true, that mindset is all about you taking responsibility for it. It's not that LinkedIn doesn't work. It's more along the lines of, what do I need to do to make this work? What are my goals? What are my strategies? What do I have to do? And sometimes it's being brave and connecting with people. Sometimes it's just supporting other people. It's not always about you.
Yeah. And I think, again, thinking about that, and, when you look at, when you sort of talk about goals with people, what do they want to achieve? Quite often what they need to shift the mindset is they need a plan. So they need, because quite often people think, well, what should I be doing here? Should I be connecting? Should I be writing lots of content? Should I be, and quite often they don't even know that they need to be doing engagement. So they need to be supporting their community. So I think actually, again, thinking about doing, putting some time to LinkedIn in the week, in your working week or your weekend, if it works for you. So dedicating some time to it, that's really important. That quite often shifts the mindset as well, I find, because, quite often people say to me, oh, well, I looked at it at 10 o'clock last night, but I was really tired and I just scrolled a bit and I didn't do anything. And I know, and then I kind of sort of say, well, actually, maybe it's not a 10 o'clock at night job. Maybe it's a with your morning coffee job, where you give it 15 minutes, a very dedicated 15 minutes, and you do a number of things in those 15 minutes that are proactive, and you tick them off. You reach out, make some connections, or you do some really lovely engagement on content from other people in your network, or maybe you're at the sharing content stage. So you need a little bit more time if you're going to be sharing content, but 15 minutes, for example, 3 times a week, as you probably know, Gillian, that can make a difference on here, without a doubt.
And you want to work in those small, consistent, better. It's not good to go on LinkedIn for 3 hours and just scroll. That's not helpful. So you want to do consistent action. Yeah. Every day, do it a little bit, 3 times a week, whatever. That is the better way to go.
And once people kind of, again, shift that mindset, oh, this isn't a 10 o'clock at night job. Actually, this is more important than that. This is going to help me achieve my business goals, my career goals. Actually, I'm going to bring it to the morning or lunchtime, whatever suits them. And I'm going to be, I'm going to be really proactive about it. And I'm going to be quite intentional about it. And then all of a sudden they realize that, all of a sudden my network's growing. All of a sudden I'm having some nice conversations with people. I've had a direct message from somebody that I've never really spoken to before, but is a really interesting individual. And all of a sudden, again, that it all helps to shift the mindset. And then they begin to realize, oh, it's a great place to be. And actually I can achieve quite a lot if I know that if I'm doing the right things here. And again, they're all just mindset shifts, I find.
I love that. I love that. And look who's coming to join us. John Asperian. So he says, couldn't get the LinkedIn stream to load, but I'm here on YouTube. So that's awesome. So it's that's why it's kind of nice to go to both platforms, because you just never know what LinkedIn's going to do. And it's always fun. It's always fun.
I love that he joined us.
So Beth, what about sometimes too, mindset is kind of, getting out of your out of the box thinking. It's finding out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Because I found in the beginning, when I was starting on LinkedIn, some posts didn't work for me and some posts did. So text posts, they weren't they weren't a good thing for me, but they're fabulous for other people. So what are some of the ways that people can maybe challenge themselves to get more into a growth mindset with LinkedIn?
So I think, like you say, Gillian, it's, be really comfortable testing and doing different things. And, and again, people quite often feel a mindset impact if something hasn't been hugely successful. And, even I feel that a little bit sometimes. I had a post the other day that, it really didn't perform well. No particular reason. Still don't really know what was happening with but the LinkedIn algorithm can do funny things with us. But you just have to put those things behind you, because you have to recognize that there's always a number of factors at play when we share content here, and that it is all about constantly testing. All of us, we're always testing different ways to share content, different different ways to express, share our content in terms of writing it, or the different format that we use, so, here we are live, but actually tomorrow I might share quite an in-depth document post, for example, that's really helpful to people. So I think it's, one way I think if you want to adopt a growth mindset here is to track your metrics. So if you're looking at how your content is performing, so every week I look at the posts that have been shared from the previous week and I track the metrics for them. So I go back 2 weeks because we have longevity here, which is another great reason to be on LinkedIn. Our posts do stick around for a while, and I capture the metrics, and then I kind of then get a really good feel for what's working for me in terms of the type and style of content that I'm sharing, because I just keep trying different formats all of the time, and actually that makes me feel definitely that I am again following the right trends in terms of my own content, and I'm getting a good feel for what's working, and I can see my numbers growing. So I can see my connections, my network has grown consistently every week all year. My profile views has continued to climb. It can go up and down depending on what I'm doing. So whether I'm doing, for example, 2 lives in a week, would definitely see a spike in my my profile views. So again, but that again is leading me to keep an eye on the analytics, which will hopefully make sure that what I'm doing is working for me and opening up new conversations. So I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. And I love the idea of tracking your metrics, because your metrics are comparing you to you, as opposed to, you need to stay in your own lane and not worry about, oh, that person gets, 40,000 likes and this and that. That's not you. Just compare yourself against yourself. And that's why if I have a post that bombs, I let it stay. I know some people go, ooh, and they delete it and they let it go. But I figure I'm going to have some posts that do well, and I'm going to have some posts that don't do so well. So I just let them ride and I don't worry about it. And I compare myself to me in terms of, did I do better? Am I getting better? And that's all we can do.
Yeah. And I think that's a great tip, Gillian, is because, if I compared myself to all of the fabulous people in my feed, because I do follow other very, very, very good social media marketers and LinkedIn specialists, if I compared myself, I'd never be here. I just wouldn't be, because I'm following some fantastic people with literally tens of thousands of people in their followings. But I don't have those numbers, but that, I'm fine with that, because my business is good and my business is solid. So I always say to people, this is a platform where you really don't need to worry about anyone else's numbers. You just focus on your own. And as long as your own are going in the right direction and you're having the right conversations, then actually you are doing the right things. And so if you keep focused on that rather than, somebody else having maybe 40,000 followers or whatever it might be, there's just no point. It's not going to help you to focus on that in the slightest.
No. And I love the idea of following people, because that's a great tip in itself. Follow people. You don't have to connect with everybody. It's okay to follow people. And some people you may just follow forever and never connect with, but follow people who have a mindset that resonates for you, that fits in with your own. So I like to follow people that are very positive, that teach me about LinkedIn, because it's very hard to know all the nuances with LinkedIn. So it's like, this person knows a lot about new features. This person knows a lot about maybe ads. Follow different people that can help you be a better you. And that can also shift your mindset.
Absolutely. And I quite often people say, why would I follow people in my own space? And I say, well, everybody's got a different take on things. We all have a USP. So, a unique selling point. They are not you, you are not them. So, the clients, there's hundreds of other people that do what I do. Well, there's thousands, not hundreds, but there's thousands of other people. Do they have my background and experience? Absolutely not, because we all have a unique career history. Do they have all of the skills I have? Maybe not. Maybe they've got a different set of skills. So we are all unique. And once we remember that, and we remember that, we help people, that, we've got clients that have been happy with our services or our products or our work if we're in the workplace. And that's the most important thing to remember, is that we are, we all have a place on LinkedIn, and we are all great at what we all individually do.
Oh, that was so beautiful. That was so beautiful. So we have come to the end of our 30 minutes. Beth, would you like to give us one final takeaway or a word of wisdom before we say goodbye today?
So my words of wisdom would be, plan LinkedIn into your workday, make it a structured routine, be consistent, have a plan, talk to somebody else, or talk to an expert if you don't know what that plan should be, but have a plan, and enjoy it. Most of all, make sure you enjoy what you do here. Otherwise, you won't keep showing up.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for being here today, Beth. Thank you for everybody who tuned in, and we'll see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.